This week on MotoMan, we meet the CEO of Dodge and find out how a letter from his aunt helped him reinvent the American muscle car. My friends, history is repeating itself. Back in the 60s, engines got bigger and cars got faster. But then energy prices went up, the economy hit the skids, and political uncertainty put the freeze on fast cars. It took over 20 years for car manufacturers to start giving us better, faster, and dare I say, more efficient cars. But guess what's in style again? Higher energy prices, a bad economy, and you guessed it, political uncertainty. Good, bad, or indifferent, the trend for the future, less is more. But you know what they say about the future? To know where you're going, you need to know where you came from. So I found the guy that reinvented the muscle car for today and has been at the center of all the changes in Detroit to see what's in his crystal ball. 425 horsepower to 600 horsepower. Whether you're a Dodge guy or not, it certainly means muscle. And to find out more about what's in store for the Dodge brand, I found the guy that holds the crystal ball. His name is Ralph Gilles. Help me welcome him.
Hi, MotoMan. How you doing?
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us here and bringing some great show and tell.
Thank you. Candy. That's what I call it in the studio.
Well, certainly in these colors.
Yeah, they're fun.
You guys have always had a thing for colors, haven't you? Now give me an idea. What is it? I think this one is very, very orange.
It's called Toxic Orange, and this is actually Detonator Yellow.
So everything is very explosive with you guys.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with the names. I mean, it goes back to kind of the late 60s and early 70s. The marketing guys really used to love naming. We had colors like Go Man Go and Plum Crazy and things like that. That really got
You just brought back the Plum Crazy, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Special
and
edition.
Sold out already.
So there you go. That's a good thing in these times. So give me an idea. When these things were, these Plum Crazies first were out, you basically were in diapers at that point. Give me
a blade of grass, I believe.
So give me an idea. What's your background?
I grew up in Canada, and back then Canadians are pretty practical people. So seeing a muscle car back then was pretty rare. You couldn't get it out of your mind. They were just so cool. Once in a while, you'd spot an SS Camaro or a Cuda or a Challenger. And these guys would, I remember these the older guys when they were successful, they go in front of the high schools and they do burnouts. I'm sure you remember that from your days. And I can't get that imagery out of my head.
Actually, I grew up in New York City, so we didn't really do burnouts. I think I did burnouts on a scooter once. Yeah, maybe with a public bus.
Yeah, so there's a sense of freedom and a lot of good times associated with these cars.
So, what was it? Were you a car guy all your life, or was it something that just sparked you one day?
I was definitely a car guy. I grew up, again, watching Formula One racing and kind of that whole dimension.
Montreal, big city for that.
So you'd go downtown. I couldn't afford to see the races, but you could hear the guys testing, right? So it kind of got under your skin. And
couldn't you kind of like sneak in and like go off to one of the sides when there's no bleachers?
I wish. No, but I really appreciated the whole car dynamic. I mean, there's a lot of enthusiasts in Montreal. We used to get a lot of the upstate New York people bringing their fancy cars and parking them downtown, and we just
You guys even have a cool like car model store up there.
Oh, big time.
It's like you don't see it in any other city except for that city.
Big car culture in Montreal. But grew up with the ugly '80s, I call them, because there were some nasty, foreboding cars back then.
Yeah, they were some very unfortunate cars. Yeah,
so I grew up wanting to change.
And no horsepower, no nothing.
Negative.
Yeah. They couldn't get out of their own way.
Pretty much.
So give me the idea, what's the inspiration there that gets you to the point, goes from you're a teenager to I want to go to a design school?
Well, it went from being scared of physics. I took physics and trigonometry in high school. I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I'd like this for a living.
Okay.
'Cause back then, my parents were all about, get an education and all that, but I kept sketching.
Yeah.
I'd be the guy in the back of the classroom sketching cars and daydreaming about being a car designer. Never thought you could actually do it. It's one of those jobs that seems so out there.
I sketched cars back then. I guess I never became a car designer. That's something I missed there.
And my aunt, I'll never forget, my aunt saw me sketching. I used to spend summers at her house in New York, and she saw me sketching, and she's like, you know what, send a letter to Chrysler, because Iacocca was a big personality back then.
If you could find a better car, buy it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And he was probably the most famous car guy in the world
Absolutely,
at the time.
father of the Mustang.
Sure enough, she sent one of my sketches to them, and they gave me some recommendations, and I followed the recommendation. And
So wait a minute, so your aunt took your sketches and sent them to Lee Iacocca?
Yes, she did. Yeah.
I needed it.
How crazy is that? You probably wouldn't remember it today, but
The most my aunt did for me was take me for a ride in the Boogie Down Bronx in a Cadillac, and that was it.
you have to meet my aunt. She's a classic New Yorker.
I think we need her here, not you.
She could tell you the whole story. But I did follow the recommendation,
Yeah.
and here I am. It almost feels like fate, to be honest with you.
So so you grew up in Montreal, you were like born in New York, grew up in Montreal, and then you went to what school?
CCS in Detroit, College of Art and Design.
You know, I've asked this to a couple of your compatriots there. Art Center, CCS.
Oh, wow.
Is it like a Harvard-Yale thing?
Oh, yeah, big time.
It is.
Big time. And
See, this is the only guy that admits it.
I'll be honest with you, and it goes back every year. It depends on the graduating class, kind of sets the tone and how many kids are hired that year. But they're both great schools. They really are.
Oh, no doubt about it.
And
you guys definitely are in different places, but you guys, no matter which school, you come out with great stuff.
My design studio, it's 40% of each, so it's pretty
Really?
close, and a few from other places.
Oh, so you show some love to Art Center. That's very nice of you.
A bit.
Okay, so you went to CCS, and what happens after that?
Oh man, the rest is a blur. School was incredible. First of all, you have to remember, you leave high school and everyone's bowing your direction. You're the best sketcher they've ever seen. You go to CCS and everybody's
like
better than you.
Yeah.
So that was a rude
You're the bottom of the
awakening.
barrel there.
And then the seniors, I'll forget, as a freshman, you look at the seniors, they were like gods. I mean, these guys were just off the charts. So
how does it, is it customary to go from high school to a design school, or do you go to like a four-year university, or how does that work?
Well, in Canada, we have the CJEPs. We graduate in grade 11. So I spent a year in purgatory. Didn't know what I was going to do in my life. Because at the time, the tuition was just so much for American schools with Canadian dollars. So I actually worked at a hardware store and loading semi-trucks, and I was kind of, I spent a year finding myself. And
you were dedicated.
My brother said, get your ass to school.
Okay, so you went to CCS, and what happens after that?
I got a few offers from GM and Ford especially Ford and Chrysler were both talking to me. And Chrysler at the time was intriguing because the show cars they were showing were unbelievable.
So about what time was this?
This was early 90s.
It's a nice way of asking how old you are. You realize that. See what I did there?
I'm the big 4-0.
Wow, happy birthday.
Yeah, just recently. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I like the way you part your hair, by the way.
It parts itself all over. So we had I had a great influence seeing where Chrysler was going at the time. The show cars they were showing, the Portofino.
They had some great stuff.
The Viper concept cars.
Absolutely.
Reason I joined the company. I was so smitten by what they were doing with Viper that it really convinced me that company was onto something.
Did you have an idea while you were in school, like I want to go work for this specific company, or I want to do this kind of thing in cars?
I definitely wanted to work for an American car company. That much I had figured out. Very enamored by the typical European brands, but really wanted to be part of the American culture. Because as a Canadian, I used to look at the American culture and be fascinated by how popular culture was centered around vehicles.
Okay, so then obviously history took course, and you went to Chrysler.
Yeah, and I've loved it. I've been there ever since.
You were working there, was it Tom Gale there at the time?
Tom Gale, we had Iacocca, Mr. Lutz was there, some great
So you had
names.
some rock stars there.
Really cool people, very larger-than-life personalities.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot from these guys. I mean, there's a place for that, and there's also a place for the team.
So what happens? You're the low man on the totem pole. What are you designing?
Wow, at the time my first job was designing heater controls for back then was the next generation LHS or the next generation of
the cab forward cars. Yes,
so I was working on that. But
I remember that was such like a breakthrough thing.
Oh, it was.
And anyone will tell you I'm not a big front wheel drive car fan. Definitely not a family car guy. I'd never owned a realistic car in my life. But I thought that was such a cool design to just pick things up and move it forward on the platform.
Put yourself in my shoes. I get hired at Chrysler. My first day, I'm walking to a parking lot, a sea of K cars.
Oh,
and
man.
I'm getting this sick feeling in my stomach. And then I go in there and I see the clay models for these cab forward cars, and then the Viper production car just getting ready to launch.
That's so cool.
Sweet. I was like, this place is awesome.
That's got to be amazing. And then they said, sit, get in your cube and work on heating controls.
Yeah. But it got better from there. I got more and more responsibility. They put me on some great projects, and it's been a fairy tale, to be honest with you.
I have to say, it obviously has been a bit of a fairy tale for you.
Yeah.
Because you've become a bit of a rock star.
Oh, gosh.
mainly for those LX cars. And here was something that was completely new. Not really a new idea, because American car companies were doing it years ago.
Yeah.
But you kind of resurrected it from the dead. Give me the inspiration there.
Well, you got to go back a little bit. If you look at Chrysler through the mid-90s,
Yeah.
this is a company that is reaffirming itself. You know, had some great success with the cab forward vehicles.
Absolutely.
There's a pretense of taking the Chrysler brand to a new place, a more luxury place.
Yeah.
And what do you do when you want to take a brand somewhere? You create a flagship car.
Yeah.
So if you looked at our show cars back in the day, we had the Thunderbolt, the Athlon T.
Can I put it in order right now? Please make that.
Yeah.
Just the way it looks.
Meantime, in the bunker, the team was reinventing the Hemi. So we had this 300-plus horsepower engine, a very modern version of the Hemi. That was one of them was designed for truck use, and it was actually an automotive version. It was a little bit lighter and
Was it originally re-envisioned for truck use only, and they was adjunct to do the cars, or it was from day one they were
truck
doing
use
the
was
cars?
definitely the primary purpose. But then they said, oh, this will fit in the car just fine because it's very compact. It's actually much more compact than you would think.
Absolutely.
But the problem is, you look at a front drive architecture, and 350 horsepower is a limit. You start stressing the powertrain. So
Absolutely.
So the light goes off, you know. And back then, I have to give Mr. Lutz some credit back then, kind of seeing the show car thing, him and
Yeah.
Tom Gale. But Tom really set up the rear drive dream.
So there was a vision for a rear drive car,
A
but
flagship
not
car.
one that looked like that yet.
Not yet. Yeah,
Okay.
and I also have to give props to my bud Freeman Thomas. You know, he
Oh
came
yeah,
in,
we met him. Great guy.
Great guy.
Great guy.
Visionary, and here's a guy who understands Americana. He understands
Okay.
what makes the enthusiast tick. So he had at the time he was in charge of the advanced studio and had come up with a concept which was inspired by the Ghias, the old Ghia
Oh, yeah.
Chrysler cars, which had the very
I
prominent
love the
egg crate
Dodge
grills.
Fire Arrow back in the mid-50s. Stunning car.
And he had tapped a designer who retired, and he's the designer. Mr. Hubbock is one of my idols. Here's a man who is probably in his 70s now, who's a great painter, great oil painter, great artist, and the father of the GTS coupe. His initial theme is really the germ of the 300 concept. All I brought to the party, to be honest with you, is I got it. You know, coming from Canada, that car, I got it right away because
Yeah.
I saw this as an escape pod for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
People that are driving, they have to commute every day. It makes you feel like royalty. And that was all. We took the car to research clinics,
Yeah.
and people assumed the price was 3 times what the car was going to be.
Well, I could only imagine.
And they were like, "Whoa!" And they you know, at the time they didn't know what the brand was.
Yeah.
They were saying, "This is unbelievable. It's definitely American. Whatever it is, it's American."
Here you are. The right people came together, it sounds like, and you just kind of put the finishing touches on what this thing looked like.
Yeah.
And then the car comes together. Give me like the time, so it was 1999 to 2004 or 5 when the car came out. What happened in that time?
There was a lot going on. I mean, we were didn't want to mess it up, so the
Yeah.
car had a lot. Matter of fact, we even had a 4-wheel drive version because a lot of people were afraid that the rear drive would restrict its success. So we
Really?
developed a 4-wheel drive version. It came out, it launched pretty much at the same time as
I
rear
remember,
drive.
yeah.
Very few people talk about the all-wheel drive
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they like the ability to skid, to
Yeah, yeah.
steer with the throttle. We also worked very hard on aerodynamics. It's that car spent more time in the wind tunnel. You wouldn't think it, but it's actually as efficient as its cab forward brethren, believe it or not.
Now that's surprising
a
because the
lot of
cab
work.
forward looked like something from Soapbox Derby.
Yeah, we did a lot of work on the underbody of the car, which before that had not really been considered at Chrysler. So it taught us a lot about aerodynamics, a lot about packaging. You know, we had a lot of fights about the windows. We spent more time talking about the damn windows than anything else. That belt line's too high, the windows are too low. And,
Yeah.
And the tension in the system was
Was it
incredible.
engineers saying they were too low? Was it the
Yeah,
packaging issue?
yeah, a little bit, you
Because it
know.
looks cool.
It looked
When you
cool.
got, I mean, it makes the whole look of the car.
And
People
even
don't realize
research
that.
people got it, but you know, at the time our product planning, even our boss back then was so visionary. They're like, you know what, that's tension. You
Yeah.
know, those windows are what makes the car. You take
Absolutely.
that away, and it becomes like everything else. Yeah.
Was the Charger developed at the same time as that?
A little bit after, a few months, about 8 to 10 months
Yeah.
later, we developed the Charger, and the Magnum was actually developed side by side with the 300.
Okay.
Now, at the time, you know, we could look back and maybe it wasn't the best thing to do, but they actually share doors. A lot of people don't realize that.
I didn't know
The
that.
faithful realize it, but the windshield and the doors are identical. So you
I
could
had no
literally
idea.
graft a 300 front end on a Magnum, which some people don't.
Which actually, I lived in Europe for a couple of years.
You've seen it.
And I've seen it.
Yes.
It exists, and it's very cool looking.
So
And you
that-
could even get it in a diesel.
The Magnum was a derivative. It was very cost effective,
Yeah.
very inexpensive derivative. The Charger was a full program, so that was
Yeah.
another car. And that car has been, in some ways, more successful than the 300. It actually is still today outselling the 300 now.
Seriously.
Yeah.
See, I think it's a shame you pulled the plug on the Magnum. I think the Magnum was just such a cool car. It was different looking. Yeah.
It upsets
It's like
me.
the American RS4 when you really think about it. It's bigger, but still, it's a good concept. But, okay, again, step back.
Yeah.
If I'm Ralph Gilles, I have touched many aspects of the pop world. I got the everyday guy driving it, and I got rap stars driving these cars, and they're excited. How does it feel?
It's surreal, to be honest with you. When I remember watching the MTV Awards, this is like 5 years ago when the 300 came on stage, and they had the scissor doors going. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this
That's
thing
you.
is achieved pop culture, you know. And it's been a cool ride, and they're listening, they're watching us very closely to see what the next generation is going to look like. So it's a bit of a daunting thing to carry.
So you're a designer. That's your passion. At least that's what your aunt tells us. And now you're the CEO of the car company. Give me like a difference, like of your designer days and to what it is now.
Wow.
Give me a good example of what the difference is to be.
Well, in a
Ralph Gilles.
designer's mind, you work 4 years out of the market on average, let's say. Two at the minimum, 5, even 10 sometimes. So it takes a while to see the results. In marketing, you're working sometimes by the day. You can call a dealer and kick off a program for the next month, literally. And there's other things you can do. You can create car commercials that have instant impact in the culture. Like the Super Bowl commercial we had, huge. The next day it was all over the internet. So it's really gratifying to see how you can quickly affect the brand and the product. So from that perspective, it's very different. What I do like about it, coming from a creative mind, or the right brain as people call it, I'm engaging the agencies and engaging our wonderful creative director at Chrysler, Mr. Olivier. And we're able to talk the same language as the creative on the agency side. So they're relieved because now I understand their ideas. We talk as artists, we talk as creative people. So I think that dimension, typically brands have been managed by business people with MBAs or from sales or from different dimensions. So I'm coming at it with a little bit, I think, more of a consumer's mindset maybe, and with a no holds barred creative approach. So.
Okay.
We'll see. Stay tuned.
So it sounds like timelines are that's the biggest difference, is the timelines.
The timelines are very different. The numbers are very important now. I look at numbers more. I look at the crunching the numbers a lot. But I don't want to lose focus on the customer. At the end of the day, it's not the dealer as a customer, the end customer is a customer.
So let's go back to your aunt.
Please.
She wrote the letter.
Yes.
Here you are. What does she think about these cars?
Oh, I love her to death. She thinks it's great. She has press clippings coming out of it.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, she's very proud, and she's been watching my career very closely and giving me that encouragement I need, even through what we went through.
Yeah.
She's awesome. She's like, you know, Ralph, never give up. Do everything from your heart and from your passion, and people will get it. And she's absolutely right.
Coming up on MotoMan, Ralph shares his vision of the future of the American muscle car and the Viper. Oh my goodness gracious. Wheelers. Now we have it. My friends, welcome to Fantasy Island.
But it's not a bad thing.
Okay.
You can use
So Viper designed by Nancy Pelosi.
You said it, I didn't.
There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Ralph Gilles.